If you're wanting to bring new people into your world, you want to create visibility with new leads coming in at all times, and you're not using TikTok, this video is for you. Maybe you already are creating content on TikTok, or maybe you've been thinking about it. And if you don't fully understand the concept of what TikTok content can do for your brand and for your business, or maybe you don't understand exactly the type of content to be posting on TikTok, I got you. By the end of this video, I want you to understand exactly what TikTok is designed for. This doesn't mean that you're going to give up Instagram, but I want to talk to you about the type of content on TikTok that would attract strangers immediately and make them obsessed with you. And not just any strangers, but the type of strangers that you want to come into your paid world. And I'm also going to talk to you about how those strangers eventually do make it into your world. I'm going to walk you through the full strategy right now. Let's get into it. Okay, I'm just going to be honest up front. I do not spend a lot of time studying algorithms. It's really not even a part of my practice. It's not something that I teach to my clients. It's not something that I get excited about. That's probably why. But I do think there's part of the algorithms that we can understand, not to game anything, but to fully understand and comprehend what we're working with. So when we talk about the TikTok algorithm, and I know this because I've been studying my own data over the last several months, the TikTok algorithm, when you go to create a new post, pushes to strangers first. That content doesn't go straight to your followers first. But on Instagram, the content that you post does get pushed to your followers first. And that's it. That's the only piece of algorithm conversation that we're going to have. And it's important for this conversation because of what I'm going to tell you next. That one little difference about how the algorithm differs between platforms will change everything about how you create content to grow your brand and your business. TikTok should be treated like top of funnel. It is the wide net. It is quite literally the place where when no one has heard of you, they can stumble upon you easier as if you were to find them through Instagram or they were to find you. So you want them to feel something from you, and you also want them to decide that they want more from you in one post. Instagram, we're not going to talk so much about that, but just so that you can conceptualize. In the way that it functions right now, it's more of a relationship builder. I'm not talking about trial reels. Trial reels are the things that would push to strangers first, but regular old content on Instagram is meant to deepen trust with the people who are already following you. Okay, with all of that being said, this is not a video where you need to start getting overwhelmed. Think to yourself,
I need two totally different, completely separate content strategies for both platforms.
with twice the bandwidth. I repurpose a significant amount of my content to both platforms, but the intention behind what I'm creating, the job that I'm asking my posts to do for me, that will shift depending on where it lives, depending on what platform that I'm posting to. And specifically, I want my TikTok content to capture strangers, and it does that every single day and every single night. And it's a very beautiful thing. It has completely changed my business in the best way possible. So I want you to understand exactly how to do this. When you learn how to do this, when TikTok is working in your favor, the right person is going to find your content and something's going to click inside of this person. So they don't just find your content on TikTok, follow you, and call it a day. They find one post, they follow you, they look you up, and they go to your Instagram. They want to go deeper into your world. And this is just what happens. I don't know how to explain this. It's just what happens. The right people, when they find you on TikTok with the right post, they migrate to Instagram. So if your TikTok and your Instagram are filled with identical content, the people who cared enough to seek you out, they went from TikTok over to Instagram, they're gonna get bored. They'll feel nothing new from you when they get to your Instagram because they already saw all of that content. There's nothing left to discover for them. Okay, again, that is not a reason for you to create entirely new content from scratch on both platforms. I know you're probably confused right now, but I'm gonna get there. Repurposing is very smart, but the experience of each platform is going to feel very different. You want TikTok and Instagram to be doing different work, even when they're pulling from the same ideas and the same intellectual property. So the nuance on how to use both platforms separately, that's a longer conversation that I will have on a different video. Today, I want to talk to you about the specific content for TikTok because of where it sits in the funnel. So the content on TikTok that would capture a stranger that is the most aligned stranger for your work. So it would stop her in her mid-scroll, she would watch it, and she would walk away wanting more. I would say most people are not creating this type of content on TikTok. Most people are actually going to hear this video and they're going to walk away thinking I need to create educational content if it's top of funnel so that people can see me and perceive me for my genius. When they see me educating, they think I'm smart. And I'm telling you, it's not educational content. What you need to be creating is what I call teaching content. And no, educational content and teaching content are not the same thing. The gap between the two is exactly why your TikTok content will either work for you or will work against you. Okay, let's just imagine that you are in a city that you've never been to before, a big city, and there's two different people that offer to help you find your way because you clearly look lost. The first person hands you a map. They point to where you are right now, and then they mark the destination of where you said you want to go. They explain which streets that you need to take, which turns you need to make on the way to the destination. Information delivered. And technically, you have everything that you need in order to figure out where you're going, okay? Now, the second person approaches you and says, you look a little lost. And you're like, yeah, I'm completely confused. I don't know where I'm going. Can you help me out? And this person says, the reason that you're confused is because this city is designed unlike any other city. The streets don't run north to south. They actually run diagonally, and that's because of the way that the land was fully laid out to begin with. And once you understand that, every single map that you look at in this city will suddenly make more sense to you. You'll never be lost here again. You probably won't even need a map. And you walk away from that second person not needing a map anymore because you don't have just directions. You don't have step-by-step processes. You have a new way of seeing the land. That is the difference. Educational content hands someone the map, and it is useful, it is helpful, but it's very forgettable. Whereas teaching content shows someone how to navigate something. It arms them with a new way of seeing something and a skill set. Education transfers the information. Teaching transfers an understanding of something. And so for TikTok, strangers who have no existing connection to you, they have no idea who you are, they have no patience for your bullet points, and they have no real reason to stick around and watch your content. Teaching will be the only way that will earn their curious attention. You can educate someone all day and they're going to like your content, they're going to save your content, but the moment that they move on from TikTok, they're going to forget who you are. Whereas if you teach people and something in the way that they see actually shifts and changes for good, that lingers with them and they want to know who did that. So now that you understand the difference between education and teaching, I need to teach you how to teach. And teaching content is extremely simple and it has two parts. I said simple, but simple is not the same as easy. This is not a plug and play template. It's not meant to be fit into like a robot or like Tetris. You're gonna have to get creative. You're gonna have to actually be an expert at your craft in order to be a good teacher. Part one of this framework is what we're gonna call the problem. You are not just naming the problem that you think your audience has, you are bringing light to it. You are illuminating it. There's a big difference between saying you're not growing on TikTok versus me helping you understand why you're not growing on TikTok. The mechanism underneath it, the thing causing the thing that they already know is wrong. Most people get into this habit of calling out problems and thinking that's a wrap. And they either leave it at that or they immediately go into the solution. You need to take a beat here. You need to be different than what most people are doing so that someone on the other end of the scroll thinks to themselves like, oh, that's why this is happening to me. That's why I'm still stuck. And in that moment, when they have that thought, they become completely invested in what you have to say next. And you need that moment of recognition to really hook them in. Don't skip that part. So basically, you're naming the problem, but you're going really deep on the symptom, the experience of that problem. What does it feel like to have that problem? And you can also name the cause as to why they have that problem. And then you go into part two, which we're gonna call the possibility. So you went from part one, the problem, to part two, the possibility. This is basically the solution. The solution in teaching content is not your typical solution, because what you probably typically see with solutions in content is it comes in this form of like a bulleted list, a listicle, tips and tricks, how-tos, and you don't necessarily want the solution to always be a task. It doesn't have to be something that they go and do the moment that they leave your content. In fact, I would bet that you've probably saved how-to content, tips and tricks, and you think to yourself, I'll come back and I'll do this later. We don't want people to do that with your content because I know for a fact you never went back to those videos and took the action. So the most powerful solutions in content, teaching content, they're not tasks at all. They are simple perception shifts, reframes. The moment that someone would walk away from that post and see something totally different than when they found you before. Okay, so when you sit down to create a teaching post for TikTok, the question that you're gonna ask is not going to be, what information can I provide today? You can ask yourself that question, but the next deeper layer would be, what is the smallest shift in the understanding of this information that would change how she sees this? And then on the other side of the solution, so you've described the solution, the perception shift, and then you articulate the desired experience now that they have this solution. So again, Again, not the tactic of the solution, the experience of having that understanding, how it's going to change their life. What becomes the possibility when they start to see things this way? What stops being hard for them? What opens up for them? So the entire framework is really just problem and then possibility. Okay, so again, I want to talk about where to start with this because I really don't want you to take this teaching and I don't want you to get really rigid with it. I want to give you a little bit more nuance so that you can be the baddie that you are when you go to create teaching content. You want them to see you for the power that you actually have off the camera. So the nuance here is you don't always have to open with a problem directly. I know that's the first part of the framework, but you don't have to always kick it off with the problem directly. Sometimes the most powerful entry point is actually describing what they want the most. And when you can speak what they want very clearly, they actually immediately realize on their own that they don't have that yet. And it's a very different philosophical experience than being told that you have a problem. And it doesn't feel like a prescription. It doesn't feel like being called out. It feels like being seen. And so the realization is basically the problem lands for them without ever directly being spoken to. And that is teaching. It's exactly the type of content on TikTok that's gonna make a stranger stop their scroll and ask themselves, like, who is this girl and where has she been my entire life? She's exactly what I've been looking for in a leader. TikTok is giving us something that we could never create on Instagram, which is very fast connection to strangers, to the people who have no existing relationship with us. And before, they had no reason to keep watching our content, but with teaching content, now they have a reason because something in that content made them feel something that they needed to feel. And again, you just simply cannot capture that with just plain old tips and tricks. You can't hold people's attention with information. You hold people's attention by teaching them. You want them to leave with a different understanding than they walked in with. Problem, possibility. Name what's underneath the thing that they are experiencing. Give them the smallest, tiniest shift that would change everything for them. And then you show them what becomes possible and they're like, oh my gosh, I need this. When your TikTok content can do that, they will go and they will find your Instagram. And on Instagram, they go deeper with you. But the cool part is they already know that they want to step into your world by the time they get to your Instagram. Your Instagram is like the cherry on top of the ice cream, cherry on top of the sundae. It's just the cherry on top. And that's the top of the funnel working exactly how it's supposed to be working.